Good evening, this is Rodney with the Triton Wave updates for Thursday, August 9th, 2012. Let's jump right in here and look at the daily S&Ps. They're all the waves, T1 through T5 are turning up. Again, it's moving right. Let me stretch this out a little bit. It's moving right into the barrier of the channel of this inside channel that goes all the way back to October 2011. It's bumping up against that, and it's parallel to the channel that started in early June. As I said, it might in previous updates. I thought it would go to 1405, 1410 area, and by the looks of the waves and the price on the daily, it looks like it could do that. However, on the 21-minute waves on the right-hand side, T1 is already gone below zero, and that started happening yesterday. It's fully down below zero today. T2, let me expand this a little bit, is completely below zero. T3 is below zero, and it's down 75, 3/4 of a point right now at 6 o'clock Central Time after hours. So although it's bumping up against this channel here, and it looks like it wants to go higher, I don't know if it's going to make it, because when T1 and T2 start moving under, then that's not a good sign for forward progress. Also, if let me drag down these the tick chart and the bull spread. The bull spread was up and down. It looked pretty. It didn't look too bad. Up and down, and then it finished on its high of the day, but it finished at 136 million. Okay, let's do a comparison between what happened in the last 3 days. A big move on Friday took us up to 600 million to the upside. That's advances minus declines cumulatively. The next day it was around 223 million. The next day it was 291 million, and today it was 146 million. It's very slow, very lethargic, and if you look at the tick chart going back, let's just isolate this for today. Today starts right about this hash mark here. There were no plus 1,000 and no minus 1,000. In fact, it hung out between approximately plus 600. These blue lines are plus 600 and minus 600, and that's where it hung out all day long. And even when it pushed at the end of the day, it never stayed above 600. So there's a little lethargy in the market involved here, and without any real conviction to move up. Now if we move the 21-minute over to the left side and go to the 1597, there were actually, let me see if this is today, 5, 8, actually this is not today, this is yesterday. So let's move this over to a start on today's chart. Okay, so there was actually a play in here using the 1597, which started right at the beginning of the day and took you into let me see, about 1392 to about 1398, and that was the only real play of the day. Because even if you shorted 1397 here based on T1, it really went sideways the whole rest of the day. So if you look at the 21-minute cash and you look at the 1597 continuous tick chart, 24-hour chart, it's going up and down in, well, you don't, if I move the cursor all the way over the left-hand chart of the over the left-hand side of the right chart, it picks up in this dome that almost looks like, let me see, 1, 2, 3 up. That may have been the head of the dome right there with three sides there, kind of like a right shoulder here, a head, and the beginning of a, I mean left shoulder and the beginning of a right shoulder over here. It's not really clear. It just looks less and less likely that we're gonna take out these old highs of above 14.5, 14.10. Okay, let's jump into MasterCard because I really have no idea why it jumped 8 points today. At one point it was up, it looks like it was up 11 points at one time. And I did, as I said on the daily chart, over on the left-hand side, T1, 2, 3, and 4 below 0, and T5 is heading towards 0, and it's still heading towards 0. So the move on MasterCard was, there may have been some news on it, I don't know, but it's right in between the 21, the 8 and the 21 exponential moving average on the daily. On the 21, it moved in. It moved up to the 230. I mean, the 377 exponential moving average. And my recommendation was that you get. It was right here that I recommended a short at 421. So if you're still in it, you're 2 points. You're only hurting by 2 points. If you got it down here, then you're really hurting. This is why I strongly recommend you use stops. So if you actually had a stop in here and you saw it in the morning climb up, let me see, 5, it was at this point it was up 6 points right at the opening. If you had a stop where you had an entry after you had this profit build in, you would have been out even, or you would have lost a half a point, but it wouldn't have hurt you that much. And I still, even though this 9-point rally happened in MasterCard, it's still pointing down according to the waves. Okay, so the same story on the waves on Goldman Sachs as on the ES. They're all pointing upwards, but the 21-minute is starting to cave. Today, the T1 went under, T2 went under, T3 went under, and that's usually a rollover formation. And even though the target is, even if the target was 100, it would still be looking long. It would just take a breather from this huge move up from 91 to 104. Okay, so the waves on Amazon are starting to look a little bit easier to read. They're up after this spike that I've talked about. It looks like it actually looks like a it's starting to look like a rook on a chess set. You know, with the high side here and kind of like a rook formation. And I can't tell you what this is going to look like on the right-hand side. According to the daily chart, it looks like it's moving up. According to the 21-minute chart, T1 through 3.5 of 4 is below 0. The 8 and the 21 have crossed today to the downside. The 8 crossed the 21 on the downside, and they both crossed under the 55, which is always has been a sign in the past that it's a that's a good time to short it. Temporary short, but nonetheless, maybe down to 229. Also on Baidu, Baidu doesn't look too bad on the daily chart, but it doesn't mean it can't come down a little bit. I'd take a look at it if it came down to 121, or even back into this congestion of where it took off from 125. The 21 minute on the right hand side is showing a little weakness today. T1, T2 went under 0, and so it's I don't like Baidu on the upside, but I see a potential of it returning back to this area in here, this line of tops, and the 377. Okay, looking at Netflix. For those of you interested in that, there's nothing new on Netflix. It's going sideways. It's already turning down on T1 and also T2, so that 63 may never get hit. All right, looking at Google, on the left-hand chart, all systems go for Google on the daily, except for the fact that, as I've said before, it's already run 80 points, and I wouldn't try to catch this until it backs off at least 30 to 50%, and even a 23 at T1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is approaching. 1 through 4 is below 0 on the 21-minute cash price, and a downward trend line on number 5 in the short wave. So in a down market, this could easily come apart and go back to this line of tops right in here, and 377 at 620. Okay, GLD, the gold ETF, is the waves actually don't look too bad, but the cash price is not doing anything. It's just congested, going sideways. And on the daily, and on the 21-minute chart, T1 is starting to come down a little bit. This is sideways to sideways. I don't have no opinion on GLD. Okay, probably my favorite stock to study is Apple, because it has great liquidity in the options. Sideways to up on the daily, but the 21-minute is starting to crack a little bit, and you can see it looks like a domed area for the past 3 or 4 days. It really hasn't done anything. The 21-minute on the cash price on the right-hand chart, T1, T2, half a T3 is below 0. Let's make this the 21 over here on the left, on the right. We'll move that to a 1597 tick chart. I made note in last night's video that if T5 went below 0, that would be my sign that it would start correcting. And it did so today at about 9 o'clock. And I said 2 hash marks will do it. So it actually popped up about 6 points after that and finished down 1 on the day. But there is a tendency sometimes when these breach the 0 line that they'll pop up and then go down. So you kind of have to just like hold your breath. I'm looking for 610 on Apple, and maybe as much as 605 on the 21-minute over here. And if it keeps on rolling over and the S&Ps and the Dow roll over, then it might do a little bit more. It might go down to 600 or even beyond. I wanted to do some chart comparisons, not necessarily on the waves, but on the but just on the price action between the S&P daily on the left here and the Nasdaq on the right, and they all seem to be in sync with one another. Let's look at the transports. Whoops. Come on, load transports. There we go. Okay, the transports, let's spread this out a little bit. The Dow has been, okay, these are equal charts now in time. The transports, when they came down, I mean, the S&P when it came down here on the left, it's almost reaching a new, it's almost equaling its high of the end of March, whereas the transports have come down to the 377, and it's dribbling down 16 today. It really doesn't look like a healthy chart pattern compared to the S&P. And even the waves don't look that healthy. They're sideways to down. So my big picture is that I think we may have reached the top of this move. And even though the waves look absolutely fantastic, it may be time for a pause before it continues and takes us down like 20 or 30 points, maybe 40 points on the S&P, the equivalent of about 300 to 400 Dow points before it continues up. It just looks like it needs a rest. It's like the 21 minute is starting to cave over. The shorter term, the 1597 is starting to move downwards. One of the things I watch here is the Aussie dollar. I'm sorry, the Aussie yen cross, and this is a risk on, risk off. Let's put a daily chart up here. Okay, so since March 20th to a low, to a high of March 20th to a low of 74.74 on June 3rd, we're already at a 50% retracement. So this is all about risk on, risk off. When it moves up, when it bounces up, it's risk on, and the stock market's going to go up. When it comes down, it's risk off. So if we can, right now after hours, it's starting to come down a little bit. So that's all I have for tonight. Good luck trading, and I will see you at the next update.